Hello, this is David J. Howe, Doctor Who collector and author. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Larry, it's Fraser. And you use, they all say, who is Doctor Who? Where is he from?
What does he do? They wonder who is Doctor Who? So I ask you, who's Doctor Who?
Welcome back to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, the podcast that explores the conventional world of Doctor Who collecting and all kinds of Doctor Who merchandise. Sometimes we just talk about Doctor Who. Not a bad place to do that. Thank you, of course, brought to you in part by Forbidden Planet and Bags Unlimited Incorporated. If you wish to shop Forbidden Planet, go to my website at drwhocollectors.com, hit the merchandise links, buy what you want, check out over there, and we get a portion of that sale. You don't pay any extra. I am Larry Van Mersbergen, your host. I've been a Doctor Who collector now since 1981, which is 44 years, coming up on 45 years in just a few months. Exciting, lots of experience. Welcome to our 95th episode. So we're celebrating Doctor Who. Of course, I'm recording this on November 22nd, one day before Doctor Who Day. So we're going to be celebrating Doctor Who Day tomorrow. Fantastic. In case you're new to the podcast, and if you're old to the podcast, you can fast forward through this bit. I did open up one of the first Doctor Who stores in Chicago. We exclusively served Doctor Who fans. In other words, we took our store to fan clubs all over Chicago. I called the store Bundles from Britain. It became a big, big deal in the Doctor Who world. And I sold it to my partner many years later when I decided to go to college. And, of course, now that business, after a few regenerations, is now called Alien Entertainment. And they have DoctorWhoStore.com. So there you go. So something good happened out of that 84 decision. We're also in a great book, which is rapidly going out of print, sadly, called Red, White, and Who, the story of Doctor Who in America. I hope another publisher will pick it up since Arnold Bloomberg has no interest in reprinting it. So come on, write to Arnold and say, hey, reprint this book. If enough people do it, maybe he'll do it. You can find this, you find a link to buy this book from the publisher while supplies last at drwhocollectors.com. We are, of course, part of the Direction Point Doctor Who podcast network. You can find some great podcasts on Doctor Who at directionpoint.org. And if you are a Doctor Who podcaster, join today. And you join the ranks of great shows like Time Streams, Police Box in a Junkyard, the Doctor Who Target Book Club, Traveling the Vortex, Doctor's Beard Podcast, and Time Ram. I've always wanted to do that. Maybe they'll have me on and I can just do Time Ram. There you go. Go to directionpoint.org. And of course, all the links, when I talk links, there are two that you must have as a collector. If you don't have them already, get them today. So they're free. Timelash.com and the TARDIS library. Sign up for a free account, and you can keep track of most of your collection. Not Doctor Who magazines or figurines, but media, other media, like books and VHS tapes and Blu-rays and things like that. Thank you, Mr. Dan O'Malley, for keeping that free. A little bit of advertising on the site, but that's okay. You can click a box to make it go away, and that pays for the site. If you're looking for something more in-depth and you want to find a picture of something that you don't know existed, or you're trying to figure out what you need to fill your collection, then you need Howe's Transcendental Toy Box at drwhotoybox.co.uk, of course, run by David J. Howe, who also happens to be my guest today. So this should be fun. I'm in a new book, by the way. It's a new book called Fantastic, a celebration of fans discovering Doctor Who. Allows fans of the longest-running sci-fi show to let you know how they became fans, so my story is in there. I will be signing books at Chicago Tardis at various times through the day in the vendor room, so if you're there, stop me in the hallway or whatever, just don't hit me up in the men's room, okay? Please. Boundaries. Okay. You can get this book anywhere good books are sold, including Amazon, and I believe you can buy this book at Chicago Tardis as well. There will be a panel on the book and a book signing as well. Now, hold on, quick coffee break here. That is the beverage of champions. If you're looking for great Doctor Who items at great prices, then look no further to DoctorWhoStore.com. Alien Entertainment, that's the store I talked about earlier, has what you need. If you live in Chicago or the west suburbs, you can select free pickup from the store, but keep in mind they will be closed this week because of Chicago Tardis. So if you want to buy from them, go to Chicago Tardis. They're going to have half the room to themselves. There you go. A wide selection of Doctor Who items. So, by the way, they'll be closed this week. They'll be reopening probably a week or two after Thanksgiving, after the TARDIS convention. They need time to restock. So there you go. So you could also go to aliennentertainment.com for more information. You can get some items off my website. I mentioned earlier you can buy from Forbidden Planet right on my website at DoctorWhoCollectors.com. All proceeds, by the way, from those sales do help the podcast to pay its bills. We just got a bill for our website renewal. So some of that money we've gotten already is already paid for that. So thank you so much for your patronage. Let's not forget our friends at Who North America. I have a good friend, Tom Coffey, is a TikToker Doctor Who collector. I met him at Doctoberfest, a true gentleman, absolutely a great guy. And he posts a lot of videos traveling to Who North America. You can find those guys at whona.com. And of course, don't forget about our friends in London, the Who Shop of London. And here's some good news for you guys. If you're coming to Chicago Tardis, the Who Shop of London is a vendor at Chicago Tardis. I can't wait to see those guys. They're coming all the way from London with their stuff. They should have some really cool things on their table. So there you go. Of course, on our website, in addition to all the podcasts, we also have one of the complete guides to Doctor Who classic hardcover books. We list all the reprints as well, and we are working on the complete guide to Target books. There has been a lot of controversy or controversy in England about Target books. One resource lists a book. Another resource lists the same book, but two different prices on the book. The fact that two books will say third printing and have two different prices on the back makes it a variant, apparently. I wasn't really looking at those before. I always looked at the printings. I thought I had all 7 printings of Doctor Who and the Daleks. Turns out I'm not even close. That was kind of irritating. But not irritating enough for me to take action and go back and let's see if we can write a better guide. And many people have stepped forward who have a complete run of Target books who are going to help me with that process. So thank you all. All right. What is going on? Well, as I announced, this, based on my timeline here, and hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be this week, Chicago Tardis. We have Christopher Eccleston all day on Saturday. So that's, and by the way, Saturday only tickets are gone. So there are still some weekend passes available. If you just want to come on Sunday, you might have to just get a weekend pass. But hey, stay for the weekend. I'm doing some cool stuff all weekend. I'll get to that in my time. Anyway, Robert Strange had to cancel his appearance, and I'm bummed about this too. But sadly, my friend Peter Purvis had to cancel his appearance this year. He wrote to me actually, and I think he talked to the appropriate people at Chicago Tardis, but he took the time to write to me to say, my friend, I'm sorry I can't be there. I'm having some things going on, and I really don't think traveling was a good idea. He's okay. Don't worry. He's fine. He's still putting out podcasts. So if you haven't listened to the Peter Purvis podcast, I don't really promote non-network podcasts on the show, but there's 2 that I really love. So, the Peter Purvis podcast and the Brandon Peters show are 2 shows you need to listen to. But I'm hoping Peter will be well enough now for next year to come back to Chicago Tardis. But we did make an addition this year. I am also excited for my longtime friend, Katie Manning will be there, and I will be interviewing her on stage with Carol Ann Ford, and I'll get into that more in my time. But here's who's coming to Chicago Tardis here. So we got Joe Martin, Carol Ann Ford, we got Jason Haig-Ellery, Annette Badland, Mickey Lewis, Steph DeWally, Katie Manning, Sean Carlson, Miles Richardson. He played Irving Braxiatel in the Big Finish world. Jacqueline King, Sylvia Noble, Mickey Lewis, Susan Twist, Clem So, Stephen Love, Christopher Jones, and Alex McQueen. And of course, we get Fraser Hines. He comes with your ticket, by the way. The convention is set for this coming weekend, November 28th, 29th, 30th at the Westin Hotel in Lombard. You can find out more at chicagotardis.com. Tickets available through Eventbrite. Follow them on all social media platforms to get the latest information, and make sure you get your tickets. I mean, you could probably buy some at the door, but you won't be able to get Saturday day tickets. And if you're coming Saturday, come early. That registration line is going to go out the door. And Christopher Eccleston will be doing a lot of signings and photos for the day, so you will get to see him. Okay, next, I want to thank the students at the Milwaukee School of Engineering University and my friend Nick Seidler for my return to Consinity this year. That's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Saturday, April 11th, starting at 10 o'clock. Join me. I'm not sure what I'm doing there yet. I will let you know. So there we go. If you are a convention person, I know Mr. Ken Deep is out there. He's saying, come out to LI Who. I said, I wish it was a different day because it's in the middle of my school year. And it's so hard to get substitute teachers. I'm a teacher. So, it's hard to get substitute teachers. So I'm hoping one day maybe he'll move it back in August so I can go. But if you have a convention or festival or even a club meeting you want me to zoom in on or whatever, give me an email at drwhocollectorspodcast@gmail.com. So there you go. Speaking back on my website here, many rumors in the collecting world about second, third printing hardcover books by Wingate, W.H. Allen, White Lion, whatever. But I'm always on the lookout for concrete proof of those existing. So if you have a book that I've never talked about or does not appear on my guide, contact me. I mean, I don't want to take your book away. I just want pictures of it so I can prove to the world that all the collectors out there are going to have to keep looking. Okay. That's all it is. Share your story with me as a guest host. Come on board and do some collection stories. I've got some collectors lined up here. I've talked to many already and I've got more coming. So if you want to be on the show, let me know. We'll talk. Email me again, drwhocollectorspodcast@gmail.com. Today's show, I get to speak with my good friend, Mr. David J. Howe. He's probably one of the great collector gurus of the world. His new memoir, Who Me, has been out for a while now, and we get to talk about that wonderful book. I want to thank my patrons. If you are a Patreon subscriber, thank you so much. If you would like to, you can go to us at patreon.com/Doctor Who Collectors Podcast and support us there at any amount you choose. That money does help defray our costs for the podcast. Our theme song is Who's Doctor Who, composed by Barry Mason and Les Reed, performed by Fraser Hines, used with permission. You can hear this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Podbean. And we are a Direction Point Network podcast. So after a quick break here, we're going to have my time, our main story, and of course, the most outrageous offer. Stay tuned.
Traveling the Vortex.
Are you ready to embark on an epic journey through time and space? Join the thousands of Whovians around the world who've discovered Traveling the Vortex, the ultimate Doctor Who podcast for die-hard fans and curious newcomers alike.
Every week, we dive deep into the Whoniverse, discussing the episodes, theories, and hidden gems. We dissect the Doctor's adventures, share behind-the-scenes stories, and explore the legacy of this iconic show.
Traveling the Vortex brings fans together, fostering a global community of Whovians. Whether you're a fan of classic or new Who, there's something for everyone.
Join us on this incredible journey as we unravel the mysteries of time and space.
Don't miss out. Subscribe to Traveling the Vortex today on your favorite podcast platform.
Traveling the Vortex. Your ticket to adventure awaits.
Traveling the Vortex is a proud member of the Direction Point Podcast Network. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Hi, I'm Juliet.
And I'm Nathan.
Experience Doctor Who from the very beginning through a classic fan's eyes.
And through the eyes of a new Who fan.
Reminisce and relive those classic moments with Nathan as he offers fun insight.
Or experience them for the first time with Juliet as she dwells on social issues, history, fashion, and the size of a flashlight.
We're the Time Streams podcast.
Find us on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
It's my time.
Hello and welcome to my time. It's time for me to talk to you about what's going on. So here is what I am doing at Chicago Tardis, which is coming up this weekend. Friday, of course, registration does open at 8 o'clock. So make sure you get there, get your badge. I mean, I don't probably need to get my badge right away. Everybody knows me, but that's okay. So first thing I'm doing is at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it's a panel called Evolution of the Doctor Who Novelization from 64 to 75. Doctor Who novels was written as children's books in the early part, but then evolved into those target books. So the early development of Doctor Who novelizations, tracing their growth from standalone publishing experiments to a beloved and influential extension of the TV series. So there you go. So you can see me there. I'm presenting this with Mr. Steve Grace. I don't know Mr. Grace, but I'm looking forward to meeting him. So, Steve, if you're a listener, I can't wait to see you. Thanks so much. At 12 o'clock, let's see if I've got this right here. Yeah, 12 o'clock, I'm going to be in the Over 30 cosplay. That's basically, that's Jen Greeley, who's our costume expert at Chicago Tardis, and a few other people. We talk about what it's like to wear costumes. I wear the Dr. 5 cosplay. It took me a year to put that together, and it's pretty accurate. And we talk about the fact that, I'm definitely over 30 by a little bit. I'm 56. I have no problem saying that. So what is it like to walk down the street sometimes in your costume and get people who look at you funny or say, hey, act your age? And we kind of work on those issues. It's like, hey, I'm having fun. What's wrong with you? If I wear bunny ears in public, hey, that's my business. All right. I am going to promote someone else here. Make sure at 5 o'clock, you should check out my friend Tony Witt. He's interviewing Steph Diwali. I will be interviewing her later in the weekend. So that's everything I'm doing on Friday. On Saturday, that's Christopher Eccleston Day, by the way. At 11 o'clock in the morning on the main stage, I will have Carol Ann Ford and Katie Manning on the main stage. I'm going to do my best to record that interview. I'm bringing my portable recorder. I will put it on the stage in front of us. Hopefully it'll pick us up, and we'll see what happens there. At 12 o'clock, after I... 12 o'clock, I'll be celebrating Fantastic Doctor Who fans in the new book about them with Mr. Nick Seidler. So meet the authors, tell your story, and then we'll be signing some books. So that should be fun. Let's see what else is next here. Okay, I will, of course, I'm also promoting at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m., the Christopher Eccleston interview, which will be done by Jason Haig-Ellery, the CEO of Big Finish. As well as that, of course, Christopher Eccleston will be doing photographs and autographs all day. So he will be busy there. On Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, I'm on the main stage with the wonderful Steph Diwali. She played Anita Ben in Joy to the World and Reality War. And she's a character that people have come to love. And she's new to the Doctor Who world. So I can't wait to see that. At 12 o'clock, I am on a panel called The Doctor Who Annual, 60 Years of Stuffing Stockings. I will be bringing every annual I own to showcase there, and presenting at that is Mr. Dan Murphy, who I recently just became acquainted with, so I'm looking forward to that. At 1 o'clock, yeah, I'm busy. At 1 o'clock, it's Doctor Who Collecting, Toys and Games from 64 Visual History. I'm bringing the panel I did at Oktoberfest to Chicago Tardis. And then I get a little bit of a lunch break there. And then at 3 o'clock and Sunday, this is one of the final, getting to the end of the convention here, the history of the Daleks in books. So what I'm doing here is they inspired a merchandise movement that started with books in 64. The panel discusses the impact of that development. And artifacts will be brought in to show you. So that should be fun. And then, of course, the closing ceremony is at 6 p.m. It's always sad when the closing ceremony happens. But there are a few things that are happening after that. So it's a fun weekend. It really is. So some of the other highlights here, let me go through. I'm going through the schedule here. So some of the other highlights here is we will have the Big Finish characters and things like that. We've got, all the photos and stuff like that. Susan Foreman has the Spotlight on Susan Foreman panel, and the interview with Paul Booth and Yvette Badland. That should be cool. Paul's a good interviewer. We've got all kinds of things happening for everybody on that whole weekend. So if you're there, you're going to have fun. There's always something happening. There's also the 24-hour video room. That was something that was left over from the Spirit of Light days. Gene Smith, who runs this convention, said that was a great idea. So they run a 24-hour video booth. Of course, there used to be somebody in the old days changing the video cassettes out. Now it's all digital. So there you have it. So that's Chicago Tardis this weekend at the Westin and Lombard. It's not too late if you're not there yet. You can, of course, hopefully get some tickets. So I'm checking now here on the buy tickets thing to see what's available, and I'll tell you right now. Let's see. Okay, pardon me while I get this up and running here. So it looks like a priority, let's see, child membership, 6 to 12 are still available for $102.38. That includes the Eventbrite fees. Membership priority for a child 0 to 5 is free, by the way. Weekend membership, general admission is $110.68. That's for the full weekend. General admission for the child 6 to 12 is $53.64, and of course, the 0 to 5 is free. Friday only tickets are available for $53.64. Friday general admission, child is $27.72, and children under 5 are free. There is also a Sunday one-day pass for $43.27, for children $22.53, and Sunday the children under 5 is free. We also have reserved memberships. These all go in tier order. Basically, if you're waiting in line for an autograph, it's all access, priority, reserved in that order. So, I'm an all access member. I've had that for several years. So I basically get to go first. It's you pay for that. You pay for that perk. There's also a few other perks with that too. So each membership has its own perk. Reserve membership for the weekend is sold out. They're not available anymore. Priority memberships are all sold out. Saturday general admission tickets are all sold out. So your only option, if you want to come for that Saturday, is a general admission weekend, I believe. And let me just double check here. And it looks like, priority. There is let's see, child only. No, there's no priority memberships for general. So it's just general admission. So that's what you've got. The sale does end this weekend, but you can probably buy them at the door. They include all access to tracks of programming, autographs at the alternative autographs track, a costume contest, the cavalcade, Camp Time Lord for little kids. It's a great place to, daycare basically. The karaoke party, the dance party, the gaming room, audience participation events, dealer's room, artist alley, fun and friendship. So $110.68 for the weekend is not bad for all 3 days, and that's a good deal. So there you go. That's what's happening at Chicago Tardis. So thank you so much for giving me your time. I gave you 8 minutes of time today. Well, after the break here, we're going to come up to the main story. We're going to talk to David J. Howe about his new book, Who Me? What? Who? Are you talking to me? Who me? Who me? Anyway, stay tuned.
The vervoids are probably the best dirty joke in Doctor Who.
They're hermaphroditic plants.
A lot of plants are.
So there you go. It's based on science.
No, they'll ship anything.
There are probably 11 and handle shippers out there. You just have to drill a hole where his mouth is, and you're all set.
He needs the room. I've seen it in pictures.
I'm not saying you're not a fan. I'm saying you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Doctor Who gives a a drunken Doctor Who podcast for the end times.
You are invited on an adventure across all of time and space, in a completely random order. It's the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. Jump in the TARDIS with your hosts,
Eric Gulbranson,
Asad Kheshki,
and
Matthew Kressel.
Explore Doctor Who TV stories, audio adventures, and books, both novels and non-fiction. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. It's the entire Whoniverse on shuffle. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a member of the Direction Point Network and is available about once a month wherever you find your podcasts. You are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Up there is the scanner, those are the doors, that is a chair with a panda on it. Sheer poetry, dear boy.
And now it's time for our main feature on the Doctor Who Collectors podcast. My next guest is no stranger to our show. This is his third appearance. He is no stranger to Doctor Who. He has been involved in writing and being part of fandom and collecting for many decades. So I'm very happy to welcome back to the show my good friend David J. Howe. Welcome, David.
Hello. It's David J. Howe and friend.
Yes.
My cats come to see me.
Yeah,
So,
I have to keep them out of here because they jump up here and they knock over the coffee, and then we got electronics going, and it's like
she'll probably just sit here and look at me. So it's what she does. So
there you go. That's wonderful. Well, good to see you again. And this time we're talking about now. Normally, if you're watching this interview out there, my listeners, I would normally hold up a copy of the book, which I don't have, but that's okay. We have David was great enough to get me a PDF that I could read, study, and dissect for this interview. But Who Me is the name of the book. It's going to be it's out by Telos Publications.
No, it's not. It's not from Telos, Larry.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Go ahead and tell us where we can get it.
No, it's published by a company called Bedford Square, based in London. And it's available from their website or Amazon and various places. Sadly, the one place it's not available is America at this point. They're still trying to sort that all out. But I think there might be a Kindle available in America on audio or something. The problem is, because I'm in the UK, if I go onto Amazon.com to see what's going on, it goes, "Oh, we know you're in the UK." So actually, there's a whole pile of stuff that I can't buy from the UK, so it doesn't show it to me properly. So you're better placed than I am, Larry, to know whether or not this book or audio or whatever it is available on Amazon.com, because when I look, it just says it's not available in your area.
I'll take a look, and I know that I know things are wonky right now between America and the rest of the world, but that's something we're hopefully will pass soon. And
absolutely,
and we'll get all this stuff back over here. But let's go ahead and just dive in. Now, I have to say, this is probably going to be the most personal project you've ever written about, because it's about you.
Yes. That's right. Yes, it's a book all about me. It's my memoirs. In fact, I've got here. I can sort of show you the cover.
Sure. Oh, sure. Yeah.
This is the ARC copy, Advanced Reader copy. So that's the actual cover of the book.
Very nice.
But not with this green border.
Right.
This is like a paperback kind of copy. So, nice. But yeah, no, it's my Doctor Who memoirs. So it's my story of my relationship with Doctor Who since the earliest days and right the way up to date.
I would say, and I'm going to put this out here as a statement, that David J. Howe and Doctor Who are completely inseparable as far as how the story mingles with the show, its fandom, its creators. Because for me, I mean, the first time I ever read an article with your name in it was 1984. So I was really young when I read that. And then all throughout reading Doctor Who magazine with Collector's Corner and various things that came out over the years. And just for my other listeners, when the TX file that came out.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I have that. The toy box, which I use a lot, and we talked about this on my show before, the Who Adventures.
Yes.
I also I refer to this one quite a bit. Time Frame, of course, a really nice book, and one of my prized possessions, of course, is one of these here, the Target book. I don't have a blue one, but I have a white one, so that's okay. But I remember when it came out later, when this one came out, our mutual friend Gene Smith had said, "Hey, Larry, come by the shop. I've got one of these for you. It's set aside." And so that was, a very important part of history, especially with my friends who do the Target Book Club podcasts and things like that. They have the reference books that you presented, but that's something in your body of work. And I looked in the in your book, you list almost just about everything you've written.
I think there's a list of everything in the front,
and the things that aren't there, like all the articles in Doctor Who magazine and
of course,
and other things that have come out. I opened up my chess set from the Danbury Mint, and you wrote the brochure in there. So yeah,
I did. Yes,
and many DVDs, Blu-rays, and things of that nature. So you're completely interwoven into the world of Doctor Who, and I don't think at this point there's no way to extract you from that. Which I
think so. I think it's terminal. It's just kind of it's there. And the book kind of not really explain, but tries to kind of go through how this happened. You know, what was it that fascinated me? How did it progress? What did I do? You know, blah blah blah. You know, how did I get to sort of here, sort of thing. But yeah, and it was a real deep dive, as you say, into my life and all the bits and bobs that I got involved with over the years.
So, just kind of taking you through, I'm going to be very careful not to do any major spoilers here. So, but in the first part of the book, you know, we start way back in your, you know, you describe the, you know, your birth right off the bat.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, I know. And you were there, and it was really kind of an interesting, you know, the story. You know, read it was a really like, oh, what's happening next? What's happening next? It was really quite. It's a page turner, folks. I'll tell you that much. But going into the Doctor Who part here, you describe your first memories of Doctor Who alongside your childhood holidays. Do you think those early experiences of family shaped how you connected to the show?
Probably. I mean, it's always very difficult to know in retrospect. But I think because we had a kind of a happy family life when I was growing up. I mean, my parents weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination, but they were both working, which was potentially unusual, I suppose, back in the 60s. And my dad certainly liked his gadgets, which, again, I was very lucky in that he had reel-to-reel tape recorders and stuff like that, you know. And we had a television. You know, a lot of people just didn't have a television back in the 60s. So I was lucky. And I think because it was happy, because we had television, we had, you know, recording information. My dad had 8mm film camera. So we've got lots of childhood cine film of me running around, moving snow and playing in the garden and whatever, you know, and off holidays and all sorts of stuff, which a lot of families just don't have. You know, they don't have that very early record of what they were doing in their lives and stuff like that. These days, it's very different because obviously everybody's got like a studio level camera on your phone. So if you really want to, you can record every moment, every minutiae of the life. And of course, that's what we do through social media. So, you know, you can look back and see what you had for breakfast 20 years ago kind of thing. It seems a bit daft, but if you wanted to, you could probably do that. Whereas obviously back in the 60s, we didn't have such things. So I was very lucky in all of those respects. But I think, you know, the connection with Doctor Who is, I still don't quite know where it all came from. It's a fascination with monsters, is what I've always said, is that I liked the monsters in it. I liked the fact that it was episodic, you know. Same reasons why I liked Lost in Space, that old 60s series. Monster of the Week approach. You know, slightly science fiction, slightly unusual, a little bit adventurous, a little bit scary. You know, both shows are actually very similar in very, very many respects. Plus, of course, Lost in Space also had cliffhanger endings. You know, at the end of each episode, you did get a cliffhanger into the start of the next one kind of thing. So, again, there's a lot of similarities between Doctor Who and Lost in Space. And I like both of them. But Lost in Space, it never grabbed me the way that Doctor Who grabbed me. Possibly because it was like on and then it wasn't. So, I mean, you know, we watched it through to about, I don't remember, early 70s or something. It was on in the UK. But we didn't have over here, of course, the benefit that you guys in America had of your PBS channels or whatever they were called in the 60s. Which would just repeat stuff over and over and over and over and over and over again. So the chances were, if you had a favourite show, you could probably just be watching the reruns like forever, because that's kind of what they did in America. But over here, that didn't happen. You know, we had BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, 3 channels. That was it. Very, very few repeats. And of course, no DVD, no streaming, no videos, no VHS, no way of actually rewatching anything. So you were kind of stuck with whatever those 3 channels wanted to present to you, day in, day out. But yeah, so I think my relationship with Doctor Who just kind of grew in out of that fascination for the monsters, a fascination for how did they do that, you know. And I've always been interested and inquisitive and interested in how things happened. And that was all a part of it as well, is wanting to find out a bit more, plus a big nostalgia element, because I did remember these shows, you know, from back in the 60s and, you know, wanting to find out more about them and what was the story and this, that and the other. And the big thing for me really was joining the DWAS, the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, in 1976, and realising I kind of had a realisation slightly before that with the Piccolo Making of Doctor Who book, where that had kind of fictionalised the Doctor's adventures to some extent, presenting them as kind of reports from the Time Lord courts or, you know, the Brigadier's memos about the various stories and stuff. So in that book, The Making of Doctor Who, there was a sort of an element that this could have been made up. It could have been Matt Hulk and Terence Dix just kind of inventing all this backstory for the Doctor because it's a book that they were writing and they could do it. But then, of course, we had the Radio Time special came along, the 10th anniversary special, which sort of solidified that a bit more and sort of said, no, these were actually on television. Look, here's some photos from them. Here's a breakdown of those stories. Here's the titles. Here's what they were about. So there was a sort of an understanding of that. But then when I joined the DWAS, as I say, suddenly they've got these detailed synopsis and outlines of what these stories were and lots more information. So there was a big kind of influx of that enthusiasm for the show. You know, I started watching with Pat Troughton. He was my Doctor. That was the one that I started watching with. And to kind of realise that there was a whole Doctor before him about who I knew next to nothing was quite a revelation, really. So that was very interesting for me, finding out all of that and knowing and understanding what was going on. So, I don't know if that answers your question, Larry, but that's where it all came from, yeah?
Yeah, it's I listened to as I was reading the story and listening to you talk, you know, our lives kind of were similar. We've got about 6 or 7 years between us in age. I was born in the late 60s, grew up in the 70s, and we didn't get Doctor Who in my area, which is Chicago, Illinois, until 1975. And it was John Pertwee. So we had, you know, and of course I was 6 years old when I started watching it. So my mother called me in and said, "Hey, check this out." Because I loved Lost in Space as well. I was always watching Lost in Space, Land of the Lost. We had all these shows that were on Saturday mornings that we just absolutely loved. And I thought, okay, well, this is great. So of course, because I know this now, just looking back, that when Chicago got the cans of film in, they didn't have them in order. So our first episode was The Mutants Part 1.
Okay,
so,
brilliant. Yes.
So we start right in with Joe and the Doctor, and then they go to Ambassadors of Death. So it's backwards with a different.
So where's Joe gone?
It's like it's all different, but I never missed a story, but at the same time, it was like I didn't know anything until. I got a little older, and when I first saw in 1981, when I walked into a comic book store and the guy had Doctor Who books on the wall, and I thought, oh, there's more to this. And that got my full attention because I never missed a story. And of course, not even knowing until I saw a picture of Patrick Troughton in 82 and went, oh, there were Doctors before this one.
Exactly. So as you say, it's very similar to my story. And I think that's the thing with my book, with Who Me, is that my story is probably very similar to a lot of other people's stories. And indeed, similar even if it's a different fandom.
Yes.
You know, if you're Star Trek or Babylon 5 or
Star
Deep
Wars
Space Nine or whatever it might be, or Batman or whatever it might be. You know, I think it's a similar kind of a story of an initial discovery and a kind of like trying to track down what you can with the resources you have. Right. But then a kind of an explosion at some point when you realise, oh my goodness me, there's far more to this than I even expected.
Yes.
And then as you get older and you get a job and you've suddenly got disposable income,
you
know, the dreaded disposable income, you finally got, you know, the money to be able to indulge your interests and, you know, get in there. So, yeah, very interesting. Yes,
it is. And of course, you know, as you go forward here, you go forward to discovering, as you get older, you're discovering your fandom and things that, of course, and being in the UK, where a lot of where Doctor Who merchandise lived long before it ever came over to this shore, and you talked about that first toy you got that you never, the Dalek, and it's gone, you don't know what happened to it. And I thought, wow, gosh, I wish I could have bought a Dalek when I was 5 years old. That would have been cool. Yes. But that's part of that. And we had, of course, our creativity. So we had Legos. So we built, I actually built a Keller machine out of Legos after watching Mind of Evil, because I was just obsessed with that thing scared the life out of me. And I thought, me too. And we had, and that story still sticks in my mind as an early story I remember seeing in full color on TV. And it was just, wow, what a story. Just and Roger Delgado being the master and all that. I didn't even understand all that, but I just knew this little machine was doing harm. And I thought, I got to try to build one of those. And I did my best out of my memory to do that little, and it was such a cool thing. And that's kind of how...
I think I mentioned in the book that I tried to build the disintegrator guns from Day of the Daleks out of Lego. Because I was fascinated by them, and I think the clear plastic bricks had just come in, so you could just about make like a clear sort of handled gun thing.
Yeah,
it's a very blocky Lego, not quite the same, but kind of quite cool though to do that.
I will say one of my best moments in Doctor Who, Day of the Daleks, is one of my favorite stories, and I was at a book show. It was a completely different thing. I was in New York somewhere, and I passed a table, and the name on the table said Anna Berry, and I said, "Wait, are you Anna Berry from like Doctor Who Anna Berry?" She said, Yeah, that's me. She had written something and was in New York, and so she goes in her bag and digs out this picture. I don't have it with, but it's a picture of her holding the gun to John Pertwee, and she signed it for me.
Oh, lovely.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes my day so much, because I really loved you. This is. And she's like, oh, thank you.
That's really nice. That's really nice.
It's just one of those, random, not even a Doctor Who event. And I thought, what a great thing. And we both have that. I kind of think, my life went in a slightly different direction, because, I opened a Doctor Who store. I wanted to be a dealer. I wanted to sell Doctor Who merchandise. And of course, then I met Gene Smith that same year in '84. And of course, now he's got the mantle and he ran with it and did great things with it. And it's like, wow, I can't believe that happened. So it's all part of that. You also, let's see, you talked about joining DWAS, and of course that meant fanzines were available to you. So how did that, as far as that element, getting into fanzines and books, how did that shape you as a writer?
I think, again, that's something I kind of talk about in the book a bit. It's that my first fanzine really came about because I was absolutely fascinated by the Target books. I loved the Target books.
Oh, yes.
And there's a lot of stories in the book about very, very early meetings with Terrance Dicks and Malcolm Hulke, first people I ever met connected with Doctor Who, going to their houses to meet them and discuss and talk and interview them and all sorts of stuff. And then Terrance was coming to local events down with me and my friends down in Surbiton. So it was when I joined the DWAS and I realised that there were fanzines and that you could do this. I was kind of, I want to do one. I want to indulge my fascination for the monsters, for Doctor Who, for the Target books, for the amazing covers, because I was getting kind of advanced information and news about what was coming out and the covers of them. I wanted to share them with everybody, because that's another element of my fandom, if you like, is that I get more pleasure from sharing with other people than I do from just keeping stuff myself.
Right.
I enjoy sharing things. I enjoy seeing other people's reactions to what I've got, what I'm collected, what have you. That's quite important to me, that sort of sharing part. And I think doing a fanzine was just a sort of an early extension of that, was wanting to share what I know with other people. So I started doing this fanzine, and it was 1977. I did my first fanzine, the first issue for the first, the first fanzine, the first issue for the first Doctor Who convention in 1977.
Wow.
And that's when I did my first fanzine. But back in 1977, there weren't even any photocopiers around.
Mm-hmm.
So it was obviously a bit of a struggle to try and figure out, how do you do this? What do you do? And I happened to find a local copy shop which had a kind of a nascent photocopier that just one-sided only, slightly glossy paper, full scap size, where I could just reproduce 6 sheets and that would be my fanzine. And it was 6p a sheet, and that's why it cost 36p. Because it was, I wasn't making any money off this. It was just whatever it cost me to reproduce it. So I did the first issue. And then I kind of then just thought, well, I'll do it monthly. I'll do an issue every month. And I pretty much did that with Oracle for about 3-4 years. I stopped for a time and another friend took over editing it while I was doing my A-levels for about 8-9 months or so.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I was doing an issue every month. And looking back at them all now, you can absolutely see the quality of the photocopying improving, because I went from this foolscap thing that wasn't great to one at the library where they never filled the toner up, so that the print quality was very, very variable. It just depended on, whether I got there when they just filled it or not. Wind it forward a year or so, and now we've actually got copy shops springing up on the high streets. So you could go to a professional copy shop to get stuff copied. And of course, if the quality wasn't good, you just got them to redo it. So it was their problem, not mine. And of course, on top of all of that, you've also got the elements of taking orders for it. What do I do with the money? How do I cash postal orders? Do I need a bank account? How do I pay for this? You're putting these fanzines together, so you're figuring out, how do you put staples in yourself? How do you reproduce things? What's the best way of doing it? How can you get more information in it? And you're looking at things like editing, and you've only got 12 pages or what have you, so you've got to edit yourself. You can't write some great 50,000 word screed; it just won't fit. You have to be edited, and you have to edit yourself. And all of these are skills which have kind of obviously helped me as I've gone through my life in various ways, from professional at work, through fanzines, through editing, through writing books, through all that stuff. So doing fanzines was a great grounding in all sorts of things. You've also got just accounting. How much is it costing you? What's the shipping going to cost? How much a pack of staples going to cost? Do I need some pens? Do I need some more Letraset for the headings? All of this costs, and you have to start to factor it into your costs. You can't literally just charge for the copy cost, because you've got all these other expenses that you need to try and cover as well. Well, if you're rich, well, fine, and not bothered, then fine.
Right.
But otherwise, there's an accounting element. So you need spreadsheets, you need to write stuff. And of course, we had no computers. So you've got bits of paper with all this written down. So there's so much that went into doing fanzines that people just don't see. Because again, no computers, no automatic correction. If you're typing something on a typewriter, if you get it wrong, you've either got to Tippex it out with like that snowpake stuff, that white stuff, or you have to do the whole page again. You have to start again and type the whole page again. You couldn't just correct it and reprint it. It doesn't work like that. Then you had to stick it down onto bits of paper. Photographs had to be what you could cut out of Doctor Who magazine or newspapers or Radio Times, because there weren't any.
Right.
Other than that. That's in part why I started taking photographs off the television, because I wanted photographs to put in my fanzine. And how do you get hold of photographs? Well, I could take some. I've got a camera, but there's no other option. So, I'll do that. I'll just take photos off the television, And if you go to an event where they've got a Dalek or a Fate or an opening or something like that, then you could take some photos yourself to use, obviously, of the things. And that's kind of what we all did. Everybody was just doing that, doing the best we could, having a lot of fun, and sharing each other's fanzines and writings and stuff like that. And the ones that did it fairly well did well, and other ones only did 1 or 2 issues and then collapsed because, the heart wasn't quite there, or they were distracted by other things or what have you. But it's a fascinating history, and a lot of that, of course, was in the Target book. Sorry,
yes,
the fanzine book that Telos published,
yes,
written by Alistair McGowan. which is an incredible story of UK fandom and fanzines all kind of roll into one. So you can see the history of it all developing and unfolding through that book. But yeah, no, it's very, very interesting. And of course, I was there as part of it,
right.
doing all of this stuff way back at the very beginning.
Yeah, and for us, fanzines didn't come into play until the early 80s, because we're about advance a decade later. And of course, locally, we had a writer here. I don't know if you know the name, Jean Airy.
Oh, yes.
Yes, she was from the Chicago area. She wrote a lot of great stories and eventually wrote The Doctor and the Enterprise.
That's right.
And wrote that in a fanzine called Zeta Minor, which only had 4 issues. And I've got all 4, and they're wonderfully, they're typewritten, both sides, just stapled together. The staples are rusted by now. It's just
that's right.
But that's what we lived on, and of course we used to trade those. We would go to know the Creation did their weekend conventions in Chicago where they had like a Star Trek actor, and occasionally you'd get a Doctor Who actor like Matthew Waterhouse would be there with Walter Koenig, and you would get that, and you would just go to it. There would be a table there for the local folks to go, oh, what do you got? I've got Zeta Minor. I've got this one. I'm like, oh, let's trade those
great.
off.
And I'm sure that was going on at the various sort of general science fiction conventions, way before that, because obviously fanzines isn't a Doctor Who phenomenon. That they've been going for donkey's years.
Oh gosh, the Star Trek ones were coming out in the late 60s. So
that's right. Well, I mean, there were general science fiction ones even before that.
Right.
In the 50s and stuff. But again, when we did the fanzine book, we tried very, very hard to locate which was the first fanzine that had a Doctor Who cover, and whether it was a Doctor Who fanzine or not, but which was the first one that actually had a Doctor Who cover. So we think we tracked it down, and again, that's all in the fanzine book. Is all those early days of fanzines and all of that kind of fun stuff. Yeah.
And of course, writing fanzines and all the stuff you discovered about accounting and kind of almost running a publishing company at that level. Of course, that moves you into other writings, when you came into not just the articles in Doctor Who magazine, but going into like the first books, the handbook series.
Yes.
How did you get tapped for the handbook series?
Well, the handbooks was really weird. Again, the stories are all in the book.
Yeah, right.
It was. I'd always stayed in touch with the people that were producing the Target books because, again, I loved the books. I loved the covers. I absolutely loved them. So I realised that the offices were in London, so I just went up there, and I must have been, 15, 16, 17 or what have you, going up to their offices and banging on the door and say, hello, can I get some information about these Doctor Who books, please? And they were very kind, and they brought me in and they gave me free copies of books and covers and God knows what.
Nice.
So that was very nice.
Yeah.
So I'd always been fascinated by all of that. So I stayed in touch with the various editors over the years to try and make sure that my supply of information that I was using in the fanzine was still coming through. So when Peter Darvill-Evans eventually took over at the very tail end of W.H. Allen doing the Target books, and before Virgin took them over, I made contact with Peter and said, hello, you may not know me, but I'm a writer, I'm a historian, I do stuff for Doctor Who magazine, and I was helping Nigel Robinson with the books and stuff like that. So, maybe we could have a drink kind of thing. So I think we went out for a drink in London and down the pub or what have you. And I think it was during that meeting, I said to Peter, I'd love to write a book for you. How do I get to write a book for you? And he said something like, well, you have to pitch me once. And I was like, oh, is that what I have to do? All right, that hadn't occurred to me that I have to send you an idea. I did, because I'm so green. I had no clue how these things actually worked. So I came away and I had a chat with Steve Walker and Mark Stammers that I was doing the Frame fanzine with at that point. And we kind of pitched a book all about Daleks because we thought that would be quite cool. We were doing a series on Dalek design in the Frame with another friend, Tony Clark. And so the four of us kind of all thought, well, maybe we could just expand this into a book level work and to a real detailed deep dive into Dalek design and how they changed in all their appearances and this sort of thing. So we did all that, and that book kind of, Peter loved the idea, and it very, 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 very nearly went forward, but it was kiboshed at literally the last minute by Terry Nation. who had just done a book with John Peel in America.
Yes, I know that book.
And he didn't want another book about Daleks out there. The fact that it was completely and utterly different from the one that he didn't seem to enter into it. But he just said, no, I don't want another book. So Peter was a bit upset, and he said, well, come up with another idea. So again, we went away and we came up with the idea of doing the 60s. Let's do a series of books looking at each decade of Doctor Who in as much detail as we can, to try and shatter all the myths, get some facts down there, present some great photos, and have a good long look at those decades. So Peter loved that idea. Tony Clark sort of dropped out, and so Steve, Mark, and I carried forward with those ideas. So that's how the 60s basically came about. And of course, we were overjoyed about that. So while we were working on the 60s, I got a call from Peter again, and he said, we were talking in the office, and we wondered if you'd be up for doing some more books for us. Yes.
Yes,
of course we would. So I said, what did you have in mind? So he said, well, we thought it'd be really, really good to have a book, one on each Doctor. And it's like a handbook for each Doctor with all the information, the stories about the Doctor and all this background, all this stuff. We could put them into these books and we'll call them the handbooks. So we were like, yeah, absolutely. So, and he wanted to start with the fourth Doctor because he said, well, we'll start with the most popular Doctor. Yes. And even then it was Tom Baker. So we started with that book. And again, we outlined it and did it all. And that went really well as well. So there we were doing the 3 decades book, 60s, 70s and 80s, with hardbacks every other year and the books every other year, and also a handbook every year. So we're basically doing a new book or 2 books every year, basically, which was fantastic. And at the same time, of course, continuing with interviewing everybody, talking to everybody, doing the research, trying to get the facts right, not including anything we didn't know to be true, trying to make sure that everything that we did say was in fact the case. We weren't assuming anything, and generally just trying to do the best writing and the best books that we could. It was great. It was great fun.
That sounds great. You mentioned Terry Nation before, but I don't know if you knew this, but next month Rebecca Nation is coming to Chicago Tardis.
Oh, lovely!
So that will be. I've actually I pitched a panel to do a history of Dalek books and involve her in some way.
Lovely.
To go there. But that'll be kind of neat because I remember meeting Terry Nation back in the 80s. He came to he was one of those weekend conventions and seemed like a nice man at the time. I only had a few interactions with him, but I can understand, people think in that line or wait, we don't want another book competing with this book. And so that Dalek book, and it's a shame that never came out because I think that would have been an amazing read.
I know.
But the handbooks are wonderful. I mean, I've read. I remember the one I got. The first one I was able to get here was the 5th Doctor handbook.
Yes.
Amazing. For America, Tom Baker's our doctor, but we got the 5th one first.
Yeah.
So, but it was a great book.
The wonders of distribution.
Yeah, well, and lack of sometimes. That's
lack of, yes.
That's always been the problem here in America. But so moving into that, was there now when you get to the story of, and you don't have to tell the story. People read this book. We're not going to give away all the spoilers. But when you move into forming your own company, Tell Us Publishing, and it's now become a major player in the Doctor Who publishing world.
Bless you.
And I say that's my opinion on that because I get a lot. I have a lot of books from your company here in my collection, and
that's a lot of
them, they're wonderful books. I mean, we've got some great books. And I know you're now fully running a publishing house with dealing with export issues and money issues, and you said being flooded with fake orders sometimes and things like that.
Yes.
So, what is, just to focus on one thing, what is the biggest challenge still operating that company?
I guess it's finding the right material. I mean, there's an awful lot you could do, but just because you can publish something doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Right.
And we do every so often get pitches from people for, have you thought about a book about such and such? And we'll have a quick look into it and realise that although such and such is very kind of well regarded, and is obviously quite a significant show or series or franchise or what have you. When you try and find the fans of that, you can't.
Right.
Because there aren't forums full of them. There aren't, groups you could go to that are full of fans. And of course, just because you're a fan of something doesn't mean you necessarily want to buy a book about it. And so it is quite hard to try and get that balance right between the nostalgia, the fans who are really interested in a book about their favourite show or what have you, and the areas where actually there's not much interest in doing it. I mean, a good example perhaps is the series 24, which is not a science fiction series at all.
No,
it's a thriller series, which was unbelievably popular and successful back in the day. Everybody was talking about 24. Everybody was talking about what had happened in the last week's episode. Every office had people standing around the water coolers talking about it. Yeah, so much noise and interest in that show. And the conceit of 24, if you don't know about it, is that it is in real time.
Yes.
So you get 24 episodes in a series. Each episode is an hour long, and it literally covers a 24-hour period.
Right.
With a cliffhanger at the end of each episode leading into the next one as to what's going on. And you're following political shenanigans and, bombs exploding in Los Angeles and goodness knows what, and release of a virus that's going to wipe the world out. All sorts of stuff they went for, all taking place over the 24 period. So we thought this was really, really good. And so Keith Topping did one of his amazing guides on the first season of 24, which is, again, a deep dive into all the little clues and the things you might have missed and this, that, and the other, and you didn't see that, and you saw that, and this was that, and all of that. And it really didn't do well at all, the book, because although this show was enormously popular, the fans didn't want a book about it. It wasn't something that has fans. And if you today go and say, well, where's the 24 fan forums? Well, I doubt there are any.
Probably not. Yeah.
Where's the Facebook groups devoted to 24? I haven't looked. There may well be lots, so I'm really sorry if there are. But it hasn't got that cachet that Star Trek or Doctor Who has got, where there is a very vocal and very dedicated fan base who will buy just about everything that comes out related to it. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is just finding the things to write about. Plus, you want the right author for the right book. You want, what's your unique selling point? Why, Larry, do you want to do a book about whatever it might be? What have you got that you can bring to it that no one else could? So, yeah, I worked on the show. I designed the Daleks, so I can do a book on designing Daleks. It's that kind of thing. If you're a fan who just likes Daleks, well, what's your USP?
Right. Yeah.
What makes you qualified to do this? Why is this book going to be great? That's the biggest problem, is just trying to find those things. But of course, we don't just publish Doctor Who. We publish an awful lot of other things. We just did a book on the making of the horror film The Descent, which I'm very, very pleased with, because it's an incredible deep dive into that film, full colour, large format, beautiful, beautiful book, co-written by Neil Marshall, the director, and Janine Pipe is the other author on it. Really, really smashing book. So really pleased to do that. So that was great. The book we did on Ron Turner, the artist. So we've done quite a few art books of looking at different artists' work and stuff. The Ron Turner one's magnificent book, enormous, great thing. But again, it's got some Dalek strips in, but it's not a Doctor Who book. So yeah, we're doing all that kind of stuff. Plus we do horror anthologies, and we publish crime books, and it's kind of, if it interests us sufficiently and we're intrigued, because we're a independent publisher, we can more or less do what we like, Steve and I, and so we do. We publish stuff that I quite like to do, and we publish stuff that he does, and stuff that we know will be popular and successful, just to kind of try and keep the money coming in, which then allows us to do all of these other books and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun over the years, and we've explored a lot of different areas and a lot of different subjects and TV shows and films and franchises and all sorts of things. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, and I like I said, it's one of those sites I visit weekly to see what's new and what's going on with you guys, and it's a really cool thing when I see, oh gosh, there's another production diary coming out. I want to get that on my list. But I'm also aware too that in our present time, being in the United States, I did actually pay my very first tariff on a book I bought from the UK, and I was kind of. It was like a $10 charge that they charged me from UPS, charged me $10. Then they paid, I guess the way it works is we pay them and then they pay England and then England pays the United States. So
yeah, it's a little bit odd, Larry. I mean, what we've discovered is, in fact, there are no tariff charges on books from the UK to the USA. They're exempt. They're zero rated.
Right.
So some companies, I think, are just charging anyway.
Yes. That's what happened, because it wasn't TELUS. I know I've never had a problem with TELUS. It was a different publisher entirely. In fact, it had nothing to do with Doctor Who. It has to do with my day job. So when I ordered the book, they said, "Oh, but you're going to have to pay a $10 fee on that." And I thought,
so was it like a factual book of some sort?
Yeah, it was.
It's possible.
Yeah,
if it's a textbook, it's possible it may have had a tariff charge on it then.
Because
normal novels and normal books don't, kind of thing.
No, and I've had no trouble with getting anything. Yeah. Even Amazon UK has been okay with sending things over, and Royal.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Big Finish has had no trouble either. Yeah. So there's no trouble.
But I think we've been lucky, because it could have been an absolute nightmare trying to ship stuff out to America. I mean, it could have just cost such a lot of money. But yes, you're right, is that we have to pay those tariff charges at point of dispatch.
Yes.
But unless we want to go bankrupt, we obviously have to charge the customer.
Yes.
For them. So ultimately, yes, it's the American people who are paying those tariff charges, because it's just going to get added onto their bill. It's the same as if you're buying stuff, anything, clothing or
if anything you're buying,
toys or whatever it might be. That's what will be happening. So it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting, but I think we had a lucky escape that books were zero rated, and they decided to leave them as zero rated,
and hopefully that'll stay that way for a while.
Yeah,
there's a lot happening, and we try to stay out of politics. That's the best thing.
Absolutely.
Let's move forward a little bit to collecting and preservation, which is another big part of your life, and it's something that when you and I first met in person back in 2019 at Chicago Tardis, I remember, but we actually communicated prior to that, and I had started collecting Doctor Who in 1981, and now it's been 44 years, and all this around me is. This isn't the only room either. So, but I've always I know one of these days I do plan to travel to England, and I hope that I can travel up to see you and see what.
Well, you'd be more than welcome, Larry.
Thank you. So when you've talked about, when we've had many years where you've talked about your extensive collection. So what drives your personal passion for collecting?
Again, it's one of those almost indefinable things. I've always liked the Doctor Who merchandise. I've always been fascinated by it. I like the design of it, the aesthetic of it, the way in which that's developed over the years. And I always say that I kind of started collecting by basically stopping throwing things away.
Yep.
Yes. And so sort of the earliest things in my collection that I actually collected are things like that early making of Doctor Who, the Radio Time special.
Yes.
But I bought the Dennis Fisher dolls and stuff at the time. I bought the Talking Dalek, the War of the Daleks game I bought at the time. So I can see a Talking Dalek behind you there on the side.
Yeah, there's one over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I kind of bought those at the time. And then again, back in the when this had been late 70s, I was sort of backfilling with 60s stuff, because it was a lot easier to find 60s stuff in the late 70s than it is today.
Right.
And of course, it was a lot cheaper to pick things up. So, I slowly just started to collect stuff and collect the bits and bobs. And that kind of then continued through the 80s, because I was actually working with a lot of these companies, as you mentioned there, like the chess set and things like that, writing, checking what they were doing. It's like Fine Art Castings. I was like an advisor on their whole range, sort of making sure the little figures looked good, they were right, they weren't getting them all wrong. I mean, one I remember was they sent me a Sea Devil from the Sea Devils, but it had a gun from Warriors of the Deep.
Huh.
And I had to explain that the guns in the Sea Devils were those palm things they had.
Yeah.
In Warriors of the Deep, they were more kind of gun things they had. So it was little things like that. I was able to help them and sort of point them out. So we kind of avoided things like, two-handed Davroses and things like that.
I've got one of those.
Yeah. So I was because I was helping a lot of the companies. Of course, I got what they were producing almost as payment. Because I was always, I'm happy to help you, and all I ask is that you just send me copies of everything you do. That's all I want. Just send me the stuff. So I got a lot of stuff like that over the years. Which is great because it means you can collect a lot of stuff, but also you don't have to pay for it. Right. So it's a lot easier then to amass the collection. And that's just kind of gone on. And I love all these things. And I think my particular love is the really quirky, odd, unusual things.
Yeah.
I've never been a great fan of statues. I could never quite see the point of statues. It's like, how many TARDIS figures can you have? It's before it starts to, or how many Daleks can you have before a Dalek's a Dalek's a Dalek? And so I love the stuff, particularly the stuff that America did through the new series, the explosion when David Tennant was the Doctor and into Matt Smith. I love the crazy things like the sonic screwdriver barbecue tongs.
Yes.
Sonic screwdriver cutlery set and
the Sonic Spork.
Yeah, the spork. Yeah, and the stuff that's really weird. I mean, I love the Doctor Who Matryoshka dolls that someone produced.
Yeah.
Little stacking dolls of the doll. I thought that was fabulous. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. But I really do think that whoever was producing those Matryoshka dolls really missed a trick in that, I don't know how they did it, but they should have, and if they didn't, they should have started with a Hartnell and then gone Troughton, whatever. But they should have released a new casing every time a new Doctor came along, so that you could pop your set into the new one, and you'd be up here now. You'd have something like 3 foot tall.
Missed opportunity.
I think that would have been something that was great fun.
Oh gosh.
And I remember they. I had a call from BBC Enterprises at one point asking me if anyone had ever done an advent calendar. And I think at the point they asked me, no one ever had. And then I think that the first one that came out might have been the one in Doctor Who Adventures magazine. I think they might have done one. But I think there might have been a commercial one as well from one of those chocolate manufacturers.
There was.
Came out. But it's quite extraordinary that even that late, mid 2000s, or late 2000s, they'd never been a Doctor Who advent calendar. All those years.
Yeah.
They'd done Easter eggs, but they'd never done an advent calendar. So it's stuff like that, and I love all that quirkiness. I mean, I've got a Doctor Who Christmas tree in the museum, which has got ornaments and blue thing about 3 foot tall.
Oh, nice.
I just love that quirky stuff, and I kind of try and pick up stuff still. There's a few collections I try and continue with. A lot of stuff these days is so expensive that it's really hard to try and keep up with it. And I just don't think it's worth it. So I tend to sort of miss on various things. I'm not as complete as I used to be. I used to kind of get every colour variant, every. But nowadays I'm very much more selective. And if I really like it, I'll just buy one of it rather than sort of every variant kind of thing. I do continue with the character options toys because I think they're great.
Yeah, they're nice.
And I'm continuing to get hold of those. And in fact, the other week I got the two new ones.
Oh, here we go.
We've got the
the Cyber. I saw a picture of that. Yeah,
the Revenge of the Cybermen one, which is great, with a cyber leader in the middle, and it's even got a Cybermat.
Oh, look at that! Yeah, it sure does.
There. It's even got one of the Revenge Cybermats there, so that's fantastic.
Oh,
and then the other one, of course, is the
History of the Daleks 20
special weapons Dalek there, and the
nice.
So those are the two recent ones. So I still get those because I think they're absolutely cracking. Those
they
do
nice,
such a good job with them. Oh, and there's the cat. Hello, Sky. Say hello.
Hello, Sky. Hello, Kitty.
She's not interested. Oh, there you are. Hello. What are you trying to do? I know. Yes, I'll be finished soon. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's Yeah, exactly. And of course, when I was collecting, and of course, a lot of the stuff that we could not get over here because a lot of the stuff was made in the UK. And when I started going to the big Chicago conventions, we had that company called Spirit of Light that did those. And Norman Rubinstein, I met him in '83, and he gave me that sonic screwdriver that I have, the one with the red painted top. He's like, here you go. You can have this one. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. It's like almost I don't know if, how, he just gave one out. And we had those, we had the TARDIS key, we had all this wonderful stuff. And it was nice that, and by the way, and of course I want to thank you again, because my photos appear on one of the Blu-ray releases for those Spirit of Light. I was just absolutely just blown away by that. That was so cool.
That's all right.
And even better, they actually did send me a Blu-ray.
Brilliant.
That was nice. And I took it to TARDIS. Sophie and Sylvester happened to be there. So I said, I gave one for Sylvester. Sylvester's like, hey, I haven't seen this yet, because he hasn't been home. So it was really kind of a cool moment to get that through, and
that's really good.
And watch and see that and go, wow, that is so cool that that was part of that. And of course it was hard. I know it was hard for you folks to get Spirit of Light stuff over there.
Well, that's exactly. And it was a bit more light. That's better. No, absolutely. So you guys in the 2000s, particularly, were getting loads of cool stuff in America that we just couldn't get over here. So it's like a bit tit for tat, really.
Exactly.
We had all the cool stuff earlier, and you had all the cool stuff later. But and
it's so I want to just take a slight turn here, and we're not going to go deep into this because I think it's important that the readers read this story. But you do have a major health scare in your book.
Yes.
And I read that chapter twice because I really, it drew me into that whole description of the fear, the pain, the absolute terror that happened. And it was right after a Doctor Who show. So, without giving away too many, I don't want you to give away the story, but, today, as you had to reflect on that, how difficult was that for you to recall those moments?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, the book as a whole was actually surprisingly easy to write. I thought it was going to be quite hard. I thought I would struggle to remember a lot of this stuff. But once I started, it just sort of started pouring out of me, really, and just getting all that stuff down. But yeah, I mean, there were certain elements of the book that were quite hard and painful to write, as is indeed anything that deals with trauma or loss or whatever else might happen. It's very interesting. So yeah, the whole element about the health thing, that was quite a tricky chapter. I mean, the one where I talk about my dad dying as well was also very hard to do that. I mean, what's interesting is when I actually read the book myself for the audio, which I was so happy to do that because they didn't have to choose me. I had to pitch for it.
Right.
I had to send in the tape. I had to send in a recording of me reading and this, that, and the other, and the big company had to be okay with it. So, and again, when I was reading the book and I got to the bit about my dad dying, that was really hard to actually read out loud. If it was hard to write, it was 3 times as hard to actually read out loud and recall all of that emotion and what was going on. And I know when I was doing that particular chapter, the whole cadence of the reading slowed right down with longer pauses because it was. I just felt it had to have more gravitas when it was being read. So that was interesting as well. But yeah, no, there are definitely elements in the book that was quite hard to write and went through quite a few drafts of, is that right? Is that right? Am I saying too much? Am I not saying enough? Where, what do I need to do here? So there were elements that did that. But overall, the book was very easy to write and very enjoyable. And I thought, well, if I'm enjoying myself writing this, hopefully people reading it will enjoy reading it. And certainly the advanced information I've had so far from people has been, people have absolutely enjoyed it. They've loved it. Because it's a story, I think, which resonates and echoes with a lot of people and a lot of other people's own experiences, maybe slightly different, but a lot of them are remarkably the same.
Yes.
And I think people enjoy seeing that. They enjoy seeing that. And again, above all, as you've read most of it, Larry. Above all, the book is kind of a celebration of the creativity of the fans of Doctor Who, and how far you can take this daft television program that you fell in love with at an early age, and how far you can take that in life, and how creative you can be around all of that, all from that sort of initial spark of inspiration. And that's kind of, if the book's got a main theme, that's probably what it is it's that story of a life spent being creative because of a TV show. And all the different things that you can get up to, and the fun and games you can have, and the places you can go to Chicago to see you, Larry.
Yes, absolutely.
To America, to conventions, to all over the place, all over the England, to exhibitions, to watch Doctor Who being made, to go on location, so to meet people, to write books with John Pertwee of all people, all of that kind of stuff, all spiraling out of that creative spark from the show. That's the kind of the story.
One of my favorite parts is how you became best friends with Fraser Hines.
Yes.
And Fraser is, and I've gotten to know Fraser over the years too. And he and I have had some great conversations. I got to interview him at Chicago Tardis on main stage last year. It was a lot of fun. And how, basically he's at your house, you're at his house, you guys are hanging out together, and it's one of those wonderful bonds that I really enjoyed reading about. So as far as, there's really not a question there, but that was just one of the nice things about how you interacted with people in that world, and to be honest, Fraser for a while probably forgot about that world for quite a bit before it became back in vogue again. And, people like Peter Purvis, who was coming back out with his, he forgot about that. When he was fired from that job, he said that was a job. I'm moving on. Well, wait, now it's important. Now I got to talk about it again. Yes. So it's a wonderful thing. And this, and like I said, this story reminded me a lot of my own story, which is I still look back and go, wow, that really happened. And, and things like that. And how, and some people, I know over the years, people say, it's just a TV show. I says, not just a TV show. It's a way of life. It's a way of thinking about how life can be in a peaceful world where right is right, wrong is wrong, and you can escape into this world where you can go back in time, go forward in time, and just enjoy yourself and be proud of who you are. So listeners, the book is called Who Me by David J. Howe. This is his story. And there is the book. I am going to look to see on my end if Amazon has it and whether or not we can get the audiobook over here eventually and all that great stuff. And I'm hoping that we can get that book onto the shelves of our stores here. So, David, thank you so much for being on the show again.
You're very welcome, Larry.
And I know this won't be the last time either. So,
yes, thank you, Larry. Thank you. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you. And listeners, please stay tuned. We've got the most outrageous offer coming up after this break.
We are going on a journey, a very long journey, through the world of the Target novelizations and publication order. Every week, we are looking at a new book, talking about Terrence Dicks, Malcolm Hulke, and all our Doctor Who novelization friends. Whatever you do, keep turning the pages. This is Jason Miller of the Doctor Who Literature Podcast, a member of the Direction Point Podcast Network, and you are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome to the Doctor Who Target Book Club Podcast, the only podcast to discuss, in story order, all the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Whitt, and every 2 weeks or so, I'm joined by a 2 to 3 person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. We also get the views of intermediate, casual, and novice fans who either have never seen the show or who have never read these books until these podcasts, including
Dalton Hughes
and
Allison Seyfried.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you find good podcasts, or even ones like ours. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, on the Direction Point Podcast Network. Keep collecting.
All my travelings throughout the universe, I have battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I should have stayed here. The oldest civilization. Decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. Power-mad conspirators, Daleks, Sontarans, Cybermen. They're still in the nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
And now it's time for the most outrageous offer. The most outrageous offer is a Doctor Who item or a Doctor Who related item that is priced way beyond where it should be. Today's most outrageous offer basically crossed my desk in an email, and the person asked not to be named, so I respect that. Lots of books come out, with high print runs, very high print runs. We talked about The Wheel in Space, 30,000, 38,000 paperbacks, 3,000 hardcovers, and somebody said there was a fire at the warehouse. Well, there was no fire, but they're still high. And I think part of the reason is there haven't been too many seen. So one day those are going to flood the market and people are going to lower the prices. But here's a book here that actually had roughly 10,000 printed from all available information. I could be wrong, but this is the Doctor Who Dalek Omnibus, published by W.H. Allen, and this was in 1983. This is a book done with the anniversary, and it was never sold in the United States, which really scratches my head, because if I had known about this book, I would have asked to get it, because it would have been kind of cool. And it's got 3 stories in there. I've got one in my shelf here. I think I paid $10 for it in mint condition. So this is why I'm bringing this up. It's not thousands of dollars here. We actually have a book here that is $347.48, including $4.25 shipping. So this is a U.S. seller. Gold Books in Denver, Colorado. They've been on this thing before. Not sure if they're real. They use a stock image of the book, so we don't know what the actual book looks like. They have a 4-star out of 5-star review from 34 reviews. But this is crazy because I have never seen this book above $40. And as I looked around, I found many under $50. So you can get a copy. Let's see, there are copies. This was on AbeBooks, by the way. So also on AbeBooks, there are copies for $45 and $28. eBay, there are 20 copies around $32, $33, one of them for $10. So you can get this book if you shop around. There were a lot of those books available. I still see a lot of books available. So there's not, there really isn't anything that is hard to find here. So that's kind of crazy. So if you have a book out there that, if you find a book online or in a shop for that matter, take a picture of it, if you can, if they let you, and send me an email at drwhocollectorspodcast@gmail.com, and let's take a look at that. Let's put it on the show. Outrageous offers have helped people avoid wasting their money. And I'm always on the lookout for bargains, but I'm also on the lookout for these. This is crazy. Absolutely. So that wraps up the most outrageous offer, and that wraps up the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast for this edition. I want to thank my good friend David J. Howe for being on the show. Always nice when my UK friends can work their schedule around the 6-hour time difference and be here. The next episode, we're going to be talking with collector Richard Lloyd. He's a TikToker and a Doctor Who collector, and he's written a brand new book, which we'll talk about on our next show. So I will hopefully see you all at Chicago Tardis, and until then, keep collecting.
point. Direction point.
A Doctor Who podcast network.